What if conscious is a curse? The consciousness doesn't exist in a binary fashion. It's not a yes or no answer. It's not are you or are you not conscious. It exists on a spectrum. It's how conscious are you? And so, at what point do you tip over from what would be beneficial to a detrimental level of consciousness? Because things are going to happen in the pace at the time that they are meant to happen, or that they are going to. Never mind any statement or label to the happening. They will happen as they happen. Period. When they happen, how they happen, all this is irrelevant. But the fact of the matter is that they're going to come to pass. And so whether you are aware of their happening, whether you're aware of their absence or aware of their presence or not, they will occur. And so I suppose the question I pose today is, at what point in time? Because you hear very often from people who make it to be monumentally successful that the one thing that they wish they had done throughout the journey is to either be present for the journey itself, but more accurately, to not try, how can I say? There's a certain level of pressure that you put on yourself in order to execute. And so the thing that they talk about very often wanting to program within themselves what they wish they had at a younger age is to understand that the process itself needs to occur. You need to do the inputs in order to get the outputs. How you feel about doing the inputs is completely up to you, meaning you can do what it takes to win. It will take X amount of time. And so it would beseech you to consciously, throughout the process, keep yourself in a state of, in a elevated mood, and not affect your mood negatively in order to attempt to eke more progress out of yourself. Because that 2 or 3% isn't really going to affect how it happens or when it happens, but rather it will have a very deleterious effect on yourself throughout the process. So, an example of this would be if it took you 5 years, 10 years to get that qualification, get that job, get to the spot where you're making money, to build that company, to build that brand, to build whatever. That's how long it's going to take, period. The work that you're putting in is the work that you're putting in, period. And so, what they often talk about in terms of wanting to change, or it being preferable for them to change, or wishing that they had changed it in the past, is how you approach putting that work in. And so it's the workouts where instead of just having your headphones in and going straight after it, you have a conversation in the beginning of it. You have a laugh somewhere in between. Um, friend once said, maybe the real gains were the friends we made along the way, right? When you're going onto your venture, you're going into your industry, it is having that conversation that you know is not going to lead to some sort of business connection, or is not going to um, put you in a better position overall, because not everything is about ROI, right? We all think about the return on investment in time, when you are in a certain space and focused on executing certain things. Then all you tend to think about is in terms of return on investment, right? And realize that some things, it, I talked about last week, I believe, the that signal to noise ratio. And I think what we're talking about now is something that's very similar to that. is understanding how much signal compared to how much noise is required, you know? And I think something that's very, very big for me that I've been very conscious and aware of trying to implement in my life is understanding what is controllable, what is not controllable, what should I leave to time, what should I force to happen, um, and so on and so forth. And the difficulty for me, I believe, I often find is my lack of an ability to ask for help. Is my lack of an ability to ask for support in a matter. Is my lack of an ability to say, you know what, I'm actually stretched too thin right now, and I can't take that on. You know, I can't do that for you. I can't show up there. And that's not just because I'm a completely unselfish whatever. No, it's more so me not wanting to miss out on the opportunity that is that work within itself, and that could be what doing that could teach me potentially, what that could do in terms of my psyche, my mentality, the position that that could put me in. That's among many other things, but I do sincerely believe from like the core of me, from the bottom of me, that being conscious and aware of the happening, being, I don't know if present's the word, perhaps, but perhaps present is the word. Being present, not just present, but present and aware of each grain of time as it slips by. Being aware of when time feels faster, when it feels slower, how quickly things are happening, how much you are and are not doing, how much you did and did not do within each and every single day. The complex duality of life, which is you do want to do the certain things that you want to get done. You do want to complete those core actions, but um, as you're cranking out those repetitions, it's also uh, you're chugging down, you're marching down, and you're running towards the last time you're ever going to do a certain activity. And so an example is I'll take working out because I work out quite often. And so each and every rep, you're trying to do this, you're trying to squeeze, you're trying to, whatever, you're trying to be conscious in that moment. You're trying to keep balance. You're trying to make sure that this is there, that's there, and you execute, and that's done. It's like, who? And you may look at the time, and there's this next thing you have to go to, whatever the case, and that causes you to maybe rush through the workout, or say you deliberately tell yourself, I'm not going to rush through this workout, I'm going to finish this, and then I'm going to be on to the next thing. It's the conscious mind being in that moment, realizing that, okay, this is one less bench press that I'm going to get to do. This bench press is one bench press closer to the last bench press I'm ever going to do in my life. Thinking back to my rugby days, um, I did not think, I really, really did not think that that was the last time I was going to be putting a jersey over my head, um, you know, running out on that field, and that's it, you know? And I don't know how differently I would have behaved if I had known. Is that going to be the last time ever? Perhaps. It may well could be. But even if it's not, eventually there will be a very last time that we do everything that we're doing. And so, being painfully aware of that, being painfully aware of what it is that you have, what it is that you lack, painfully aware of the areas in which you are currently present, dominating, and that's one thing, right? Which is you have worked now, you've gotten the thing, you're on top of the mountain. It's how do I stay on top of the mountain, or how do I climb onto a bigger mountain? And yet at the same time, when you think about even the tiny mountain that you're on, you think about what mountains you haven't conquered that are parallel to yours that other people may have conquered. You think about what else it is that you would like to have implemented in your life. What else would you like to have included in your life? Um, Now, in a great example, this morning I'm sitting in my room. There's no bedding on my bed. That's because from yesterday, uh, decided that okay, today first thing, instead of just getting up, getting out, and just hammering after the day, we're gonna take about an hour each day. It's probably gonna be end up being more than an hour, hour 30, whatever. But whatever time it takes, we're gonna create time where two things: we're gonna be listening to a podcast. We're making that podcast time that I've talked about. If you're following or if you do the Twitter, the whatever's, we're creating that time where we're gonna be listening to the podcast, getting back to the reading, taking notes, whatever, and we're combining that with a cleaning time, just a whatever, those little things that I just don't have time to do. And I have been thinking about this for a while, actually, about those little things that I'm like, for example, my kicks. I really want to wash my shoes. Like there's certain pairs of shoes that I just haven't stopped wearing because I was like, it's just dirty and I don't have time to wash it, you know? And it's like, well, no one has time. You make the time, right? And so we take from one bucket and we pour into another one. And so yeah, that's been implemented from today. I feel like that's obviously it's day one, so you are gonna feel like it's working well. But I do think it is gonna work. I do think it is gonna work. It does make sense of the schedule, everything. That we just take that time, you kind of do whatever you need to do. And I think within that time, there's going to be time like excess, which is cool. Time in excess, which is cool to me because, again, with that reading time, once you're into it, I found this. Once you're into it, it's actually super easy to just keep going. Because even in my listening to music, perhaps on my way to the gym, whatever, I'll kind of want to listen to like hip hop, and I'll kind of want to listen to R&B. I'll kind of want to listen to, you know. So when you wake up in the morning, thank God for another day of life. You get into cleaning your space while you're feeding your mind at the same time. Once the mind gets a dose, especially because I love listening to the type of stuff that I listen to. I love like listening to reading about learning more about like business, etc. Business, and it's just sharpening all the skills that I have, right, as a marketer, as a salesperson. And so that I love. And I always say this, that the hardest part is starting. The hardest part of anything is just getting it started. Once you've gotten it started, I'll make another example of an assignment that I had started. Um, I went on campus today, hit the library, and I opened on a different PC, and it's not there. So there's something interesting that happened with the saving. I don't know if it's on the other PC that I was sitting on, or if it's gone forever. But I'm eager and energetic to start again because I've started before. So I now know exactly what I need to do in terms of I know exactly what I need to open up, where I can find it, what how I'm thinking about structuring my questions, all of that stuff, which is the usually the initial barrier that stops you from starting something, is just that, not confusion, but that level of kind of being lost and like, I don't know where to start, how to start, I don't know what to do. You know, as soon as you break past that barrier and you actually start, you put one foot in front of the other and you start figuring things out. Whatever it isn't the way that you want it to be, you tweak along the way, you know? And so, going back to the beginning, consciousness being a curse, being aware that you not only are not doing certain things, but you're not doing them because you say you don't have the time to do them, but being aware that you can make the time to do those things, and so on and so forth. My lack of an ability to ask for help, my lack of an ability to whatever, right? Being aware of those things, and at the same time not really having plans of action in place, or plans to develop plans about certain things, is gets you to that space that I'm talking about, where you are aware of all your deficiencies, and so you may live a life focused on those deficiencies, um, and unaware of not necessarily the blessings you have, because then you seem unappreciative, and I wouldn't think of myself as like unappreciative. I don't think that's the word that I'm looking for, but I'm talking about you just won't focus. Tony Robbins said we don't experience life, we experience the life we focus on. And so regardless of how appreciative you may be in the moments that you do think about the things that you do have, if you spend most of your time thinking about the things that you don't have, um, and how to get them, how well you're working towards getting, like that obsessive nature, that is definitely what does get you to the goal. But at what cost, I guess, is the question. At what cost? And how can we not negotiate the price, not necessarily reduce the price, but how can we make paying it better? How can we make our life today a positive life? How can we make our life today more pleasant to live through as we are working toward? Because the only thing that we're going to have once we have is looking back. Does that make sense? When you're 40, you trade everything, every check of your net worth to be 20 again. You know, when you're 50, you give everything and steal some to be 20 again. And so instead of just keeping your head down, Groundhog Day, grinding it through, I think it is important to find ways to kind of put everything where you want it to be, and make sure that you're consistently, consciously planning, thinking about, and executing ways to do that. And that isn't always addition. It isn't always I'm gonna add this, I'm gonna add that. Sometimes it's, or rather, I'll put it this way: the greatest changes in my life have come from subtraction, not addition. And so it's just constantly evaluating, reevaluating. I think is the cure to the curse of consciousness. Is taking it and trying your best to use it to your advantage. Find outlets. I would definitely say find outlets. I do have a WhatsApp channel, but that isn't really an interactive space. I think the comments maybe down here would be cool. Uh, Man, I wonder where else we could kind of make a space where uh, it's. But you see how my mind works. Now that's another thing that I'm gonna have, and then I'm gonna think about how that channel's not running the way it's supposed to, how it's not this. Maybe I could add this. Maybe I could add that. So it's all about being aware of the deficiencies and then trying to find different ways to plug in those deficiencies, and then you have another thing and another thing and another thing, um, and after a while it becomes a lot. But yeah, I'm also thinking about the allocation of resources. So that should have been the end of the video, but now that I have you here, now that I have your attention, I'm going to spill about this as well. I've also been thinking about the allocation of resources. What little time we have, and how many brilliant ideas we seem to have, how many brilliant things that we want to do that could all be good, well, and practical. And earlier today, I'm listening to Alex talking about the focus, the elimination of alternatives, commitment, all that good stuff. And yeah, I do think I need to apply some in my life. And then obviously the obvious question is, man, what dies, what lives? In the temporary, right? Not necessarily forever. We like to think about things in terms of forever, but not like nothing lasts forever. I'll put it that way. Nothing in this life, no one decision. Just because you've made the decision to focus on the one thing now doesn't mean you're never ever going to ever get a chance to ever do the other thing again. And it's cool to reevaluate, or it's cool to put your mind to the thing that's going to give you um, not necessarily the most return on investment in the long term, but the thing that's going to be most applicable or useful in the short term. I say that, but something that's a good counter to that is you also want to think of the things that are going to be alive for longer. Does that make sense? Or more useful For example, wow, and I think that's probably just cracked it. I think I just cracked it, or unlocked something in my own mind, which is some things we talk about compounding and wanting compounding. I'll make an example of this channel. The longer the channel exists, the longer I'm consistently putting out on this channel, the more I'm going to get per repetition at some point in time. The more leverage I'm gaining, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Because I'm gonna have a bigger audience, so I can maybe put a video, out um, a week, a video out a day, a video out when like a video period, and then I'll have mechanisms in place, especially with the advancement of AI, where they're clipping some of the longer form, whatever. But the point is, the more I do this, the better it gets. And there are certain things like that where the quicker you start, the quicker you establish it, the more leverage you're going to get across time. And so I think the decision making should also consider that whatever I'm going to choose as my thing that I'm committing to should not only be in line with my future self, but should also be throwing a sort of alley oop to my future self, to propping up, giving that person more leverage. There's certain things that are like you have to do once, and it pays you back forever, and that's cool. But there's certain other things that you do once, and then the dividends, the kickback from that, like it's you do once, you paid forever, that's one thing. But it's you do once, and the kickback from its existence for a long time is going to pay you more and more over time. So both are going to last forever. But I think it would make the most sense to give to the one that has a lower entry barrier, a lower threshold for entry, that is going to compound in its paying back, versus the one that's going to have a higher threshold of entry, cost wise, and that is going to pay you out forever, but does not increase over time. That does make sense to me. I know you don't know what I'm talking about. Don't worry about it. Just use the tools. I think that was a great exercise for you to just understand a little bit of the process of my thinking. Um, in any case, yeah, bit of a ranter today. Bit of an unload and offload, and a true expression of self, in a sense, I suppose. But I do thank you for your time. If you have made it this far, please do hit that subscribe button. I would appreciate it. If you did in fact enjoy, only if you enjoyed. If you didn't enjoy it, don't subscribe. But if you did in fact enjoy today's video, then please do me a solid one. Hit that subscribe button. Thank you. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. I have been Sage, standing on business. Signing out.